Sports and boom fantasy breaking down the night in the NBA. We got like 6 games. We got Brian versus the books. Nick Larson. Nick, what's going on, man?
What's going on? I was expecting you to go to Brian there just
Nope.
to appease him there and not
First
get all
pitch
confused.
curveball.
First pitch, yeah, got buckled at the knees right there.
0-1.
But like I told you, I almost didn't log on because the Clippers weren't playing, so I figured today had to be Monday. But
Yeah,
I made it.
this has to be like the first time we've done this show without the Clippers on the slate, right? I feel like every time we have this show, I always have to end up talking about the Clippers in some capacity.
It screwed up the week. I think we just have to skip Wednesday. We'll just go right to Thursday after tonight just to get the order of the universe back in store because it's
I'll
certainly
take it
strange.
closer to that's one day closer to Super Bowl 57.
One
So
day
I think
closer to the Super Bowl, and that'd be the day of the awards for NFL, which to me is like Christmas. I'm more excited for the awards, I think, than the Super Bowl to finally get some of these bets out of the account and hopefully some of these winnings into my pocket. But we got 5 or 6 games tonight. We might have some history with LeBron and the Lakers in action. Let's start here with the Knicks and one of our other little pet teams, the Magic, who have played well again here recently. Had a nice couple wins, one at Minnesota, one at Charlotte. They look flirt with the play-in. I don't know if they can do that, but the Knicks are laying a point and a half in Orlando. Nick, start us off here. Magic and the Knicks. What you got?
Yeah, I've watched way too many Knicks games. I'll just come out and say that right away because I usually have Randall, some angle of Randall, whether it's his assists or rebounds. Um, Brunson's been scoring the ball like crazy lately. It seems like in the fourth quarter he's kind of turned into, I don't know if it's like the Rockets Harden or whatever, where he does that drive and then throws his arms up and he gets that foul call every single time. It's almost hard to watch at times. But I mean, it's probably a foul, but I don't know. It's just not fun to watch. But anyway, I do have a play for this game. I am going to take the guy that everyone has banned the last week. I'll take Franz Wagner points ladder. I got him at 18 and a half at even money, and then 30 points was plus 1200. It was just too good of a number to pass up. He struggled his last 4 or 5 games, but he's had strings where he puts 25 plus a game up pretty regularly. And the Knicks allow the second most points to small forwards. They kind of struggle defending that position, so I really like that spot for him. And if I were to take a side in this game, I do like the Knicks in this game.
I would actually agree there. In terms you mentioned side, where I actually was looking at. It's kind of funny to think in this point of the season, the Magic are only taking a 1.5 as underdogs against the Knicks, which I think that even if you're not super high on the Knicks, it's a little surprising if you were to at the start of the season. But I do lean the Knicks here. I actually think the Magic have a good matchup, but at the end of the day, I just feel like it's one of those games where not necessarily a letdown spot. They've been playing some really good basketball, but I just do think the Knicks have the edge here. And you kind of mentioned a little bit with Jalen Brunson, where I think if he gets in the hole, if he gets in the paint there, I think he's going to draw a lot of fouls and he's going to be able to have success. And that's kind of where the Knicks have been finding a lot of successes through him. So I do think they win this game.
Yeah, I lean towards Orlando, sort of my little pet team. But again, like you guys said, Knicks are the better team. Orlando doesn't have like a crazy home court advantage. Orlando's a strange team. They'll beat up on the Sixers and the Celtics, and they'll lose some games you don't expect. So it would be a lean towards Orlando, but nothing I'm ready to really pull the
I
trigger
will
on.
say to add on to your thing there, Will, is like I actually lean the under in this game, and I feel like just overall, if there is a game I lean under in like a more grinded out type of game, I'll typically lean towards a team that I think has better, I would say, closeout players. So that's the only reason I
Yeah.
would like take the -1 or like I mean money line's -115. It's just one of those things where it could be quote unquote something where the Magic just take it, but if it does stay close, I kind of like the Knicks just to close it out if they need to, as long as it's
Knicks
not
don't really
too
play. They don't really
illustrative.
play a fast paced game either.
They
They
they're
run that
faster
pick,
with they're a lot faster with Brunson, but they do
right.
slow it down when they need to.
They
But
do. They
yeah,
just run that pick and roll with him and Randall, and yeah, it's one of those two shooting almost every time.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. I don't look at these markets all the time, but Palo, is he always like in that 4-1 range for a double double? Because I did a little side play. I don't think I posted it, but he was like 4-1 to get a double double against the Hornets the other night. And he got there. He got a 10th rebound late. Is he just not a 10 rebound type of guy?
he is recently. I mean he actually I think he's only. I mean he was almost very consistent on his rebounds, but he was never like a 10 rebound kind of guy. But I don't know if it's like the emergence of some guys with like Carter being back or like maybe more spacing it like that way. But Yeah, he's actually been rebounding the ball a lot more. He's only averaging what 6.5 on the year, but in the last like 4 or 5 games, he's grabbing at least 7 each, and he's been kind of emerging. I think it's a spacing with like the new look roster being back.
Yeah, I think it's that, like the rotations with Isaac back, and then Bamba being suspended probably helps a little bit as well. The last few games, yeah, he's definitely has the potential though, to be a double double type of guy.
Yeah, I mean, only one in his last 10 games. That was the one on Sunday. He's
Right.
had eight all year. Maybe he's starting to just get comfortable with the NBA game. You know how to position himself, how to throw his weight around, getting stronger or something like that. So who knows? But anything else on this one before we move on?
No, I usually lean away from Knicks games because they piss me off. I did lean on Benkera. I like Benkera's boards always at this point, but I do think 20.5 is a little high in terms of his points for this matchup because he's also a guy where you mentioned you like Wagner, and if Wagner is able to take over, Benkera is one of those guys where if he gets a Randall matchup, he's totally okay not forcing shots and taking over a game if he doesn't have to. So I do think 20.5 was like a lean I had for his under.
You're not taking Randall's under tonight.
I would rather shoot myself. Right. I don't know what it is with that guy, but you could take his under and he'll shoot the ball 48 times and you still have like a 50-50 chance of going under with him.
Yeah, nothing else for me on this one. I would lean towards the Magic. Probably not going to bet it, but I would lean towards Orlando here. Devin Booker is back for the Suns. The Suns are laying 7.5 of against, I should say, what's left of the Nets. They don't have the new guys playing yet. Who knows if they're trying to swing another trade. Simmons is in. Obviously, Kyrie's gone. Durant's out. So Nets hung competitive last night against the Clippers. Clippers pulled away late. May have covered depending on when and where you got the number. But Phoenix laying 7.5 in Brooklyn. Booker back. Brian, what you got?
This is a tough one because I mean you have Michael Thomas on the Nets now dropping 50 a night. Michael Jordan I think his name was or whatever they're calling him now. But this is a tough one to back the Suns only because Devin Booker's back, but he hasn't played since Christmas, and he saw 4 minutes on Christmas Day. This is just one of those matchups where can you really trust him to play more than 20? I would say 23 minutes. That's my estimation for him. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's still a Nets team that doesn't have KD. They're still adjusting from Kyrie being traded, and they don't have the reserves yet with DFS and Dinwiddie. So I would lean the Suns, but I'd almost rather just not touch this game in terms of a side because if you're back, I think the Suns are getting a lot, like 2 or 3 more points than they should be because Booker's back. But you really don't know what their status is with him. I wouldn't be surprised if you see him play short 3 or 4 minute stints and then longer rest. So I wouldn't count on Devin Booker coming out and taking over in this game.
Under 20
Yeah,
and a
this
half
is
a play? Under 20 and a half points for Booker?
I looked at it really long because I mean not to be that guy, but I mean remember last game he played 4 minutes and he was out. Not saying that's gonna happen, but like you get that part of it, and you also get the idea that I mean Ben Simmons is playing for Brooklyn, so he could help with like the easier, more rim protected type stuff. And if he goes over that, you're gonna have to get him. He's gonna have to get hot from like outside range or mid range. And asking a guy to score 21 points in limited minutes after not playing for almost a month and a half is asking a lot, no matter who he is.
I think I'm going to bet the under here. Go ahead, Nick.
No, I
Yeah.
already did. I did take. I didn't post it. Well, I did tell a friend on the under 20.5. I do like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna stay away from this game too. I had a question when it came to this game. Will, you're the GM of the Nets. What do you do now? I mean, you're in such a weird spot.
I would have, boy, what do I do now? I
What do you
would have
do
probably,
now?
yeah.
You start flipping some
I
other
have
guys or
Durant.
what?
I'm going to make one more run at it, assuming Durant, if they lose early, Durant's probably going to want out again this summer. Although, who knows? From all reports, he really likes DFS. So, Van Vliet, I try to win. I try to win. I know I'm not as good as Boston. I know I'm not as good as Milwaukee, but you know what? If I can get to a conference finals, I look at it this way. If I can get to a seventh game in any series, I have Durant. I probably have the best player. Giannis on his day is probably better, but like Durant can lift any team to win. So I get your point, and I'm curious what you guys think of the trade. I'm sort of stuck in between, but I got
I
enough
think
back.
Simmons is the weird piece to me. It's like
He's a backup 5 to me. I don't think
he's
he's a
not a
rotation
starter. I
guy.
don't
Yeah, he's
think.
not a starter. He doesn't
Yeah.
do anything.
I mean, I think if you're the Nets, you got to go out there and get Furkan Korkmaz from the Sixers. That's after he demanded a trade. You got to get a difference maker. So that's what I would do if I were them. Now, I think the Nets are in a tough position, and I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I've seen 7 different reports each day about Kevin Durant not being moved. Then 10 minutes later, it's like, well, he could be moved with this asking price. And like, I see another source saying the Nets aren't making any more decisions on trade. So I don't think you can move him. But if you did,
I don't think so.
you're basically just if you move Kevin Durant, you're basically just saying that you failed in this whole experiment of trying to put together this team. So that'd be a tough one for them to try to swallow.
Which is where it's headed anyway. It's probably going to be a failure. They're probably not going to win a
Oh,
championship. They're
I think
probably
it
not going
already
to
is.
get to a finals.
Unless they win it this year, I think it obviously the whole put Irving, Harden, and Kevin Durant on the same team, let them play 16 minutes over the next 2 seasons and see what happens. Really
I just
did
don't
not
know who your
work out.
second. Like, who's your second guy now? Dinwiddie, Cam
I would
Thomas.
say, yeah, it's probably. I would say it's DFS. I think it's a really good
He's not even a
defensive.
scorer though.
No, it's a really good defensive team though. That's a lot of length.
Yeah.
Like their best lineup, they just don't have enough punch. And then again, if you try to get the offense on the floor, you trade some of that defense. Yeah, no, they're caught in between. Like, could they get to a conference finals if things broke right? It's not impossible, but yeah, they're just in a weird spot here. Who knows? Maybe Kyrie will be unhappy in Dallas by Thursday and he'll want to trade back. It's not impossible.
I mean, that could happen. If I do think this Nets team will almost have to run, like if you remember the Suns run against when they lost to Milwaukee, it was the same kind of thing where they played very defensive and team oriented, and then they just had Devin Booker to be that scorer when needed. So that's kind of how the Nets would have to try to model their run after.
Is there a chance that they fall? They're in 5th right now, about 5 games up on the 8-9 spot. Is there a chance they could fall back to that spot?
If Durant regresses to the point where he can't play, it's possible. So that's what the play-in. They're up 5 in the play-in. 5's a lot.
Yeah.
We're kind of slow, like quietly running out of games here. I think they're okay.
Teams behind them are Miami, New York, Atlanta, Chicago, Indiana.
See, I don't know if those 8-9 teams will win enough games to catch them.
I don't think Chicago will.
The other thing is that like Kevin Durant still has no timetable for return. So even if you were to try to move him, would anyone even like? I guess it's Kevin Durant, but at the same time, what are they willing to give up? I guess if you're the Nets, you have to look at of who's even available to be a guy to fill in if you were looking for a trade. I mean, there's talks about like Zach LaVine. I've heard like Murray out in Atlanta be on the market, but I don't think that's true. I just don't think there's a guy out there that's going to make your team instantly better for a price that makes sense at this point in time.
Would you include Claxton, who's played really well and he's a great contract? Would you include him in a deal and you'd have to give up other stuff if you could get Pascal Siakam back?
I think Pascal Siakam would be really good for that team.
Do you remember the time?
It
was a while ago. Do you remember the time when you said there wasn't a difference maker out there?
Well, okay. I'm saying in terms of the price you're willing to give up.
Yeah, let me ask you.
I don't know. I don't know if Spicy P is really going to be on the market. I don't know. The Raptors are so weird with how they're talking about
I think
him.
they're the team that sort of controls what this deadline is going to be. Because I don't know that I get the sense just from reading everything, the Bulls aren't going to give up their guys. Let me ask you guys, how would you feel about the Nets if Siakam got traded there?
I mean, they still don't have any big dudes.
Right.
They have no size. They'd be playing pretty small. They would have a long team, but not a very big physical team.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the other guy that's also there could be the guy auditioning for them tonight, which would be DeAndre Ayton, who's still on the block. So maybe he puts up 30 tonight, and the Nets go, "Hey, that's a guy we could see here." But yeah, it's a really tough market for the Nets to try to, replicate what they're trying to do.
It is. I think the devil's advocate is if you go by Kyrie and he's hurt every year he misses games, his teams actually the records aren't that much different when he plays and he doesn't play. I think since he joined the Nets, they have a 572 winning percentage without him, and they're 570 with him. I think it's flip-flop. It's like 2 points better. So he really, he's a great scorer. I just don't know how much he drives winning. So maybe they'll play better than we think.
Yeah, I think I'm not like a pro Kyrie guy in terms of what he does for a team, but I do
Me
think
neither.
it's interesting too because if you're the Nets, you can't even really see how the team looks. You can't see how they gel and then decide, oh, maybe we should trade for this piece. You really
Right.
have to either make that decision now with Kevin Durant still out and not really getting to see much of Dinwiddie and DFS in your lineup, or you have to just say this is our roster, we're gonna ride with it.
What about What if they got Van Vliet? 'Cause I have a feeling.
I think that's the guy they might
I
get.
think they'll get one of the
Yeah.
Raptors guys. I don't know what you guys think. Who makes the most sense?
It's probably gonna be
Anunoby, Van
Van
Vliet.
Vliet for
Yeah.
Dinwiddie and something.
Right.
Someone in the
Um,
chat asked if the Kyrie trade was good. I actually think it. I don't think it was a bad trade for the Nets for all the
Me
reasons
neither.
Will just kind of brought up. Where, like at the end of the day, you want guys that can give you because I think people forget that just because you have stars doesn't mean your team is going to win every title. It just
Right.
means you have stars, and you see it so many times where you need those rotation guys, you need that depth, and that's one of the things I think the Nets get a lot better with. So I think the Nets actually had a good trade here for a lot of the reasons you mentioned in terms of Kyrie not really being a huge difference maker for the team, and you're getting guys that are going to be, very available, which is big as well.
I think it was on Rosillo's show yesterday. I was listening to it, and he said the worst thing of this trade for the Mavericks would be if Kyrie is like
Yeah.
actually good with Luca and like they get to the conference finals or something like that, because then they're in the spot where it's like you can't not pay him then.
And they're running out of stuff to deal. Like you have
Right.
Luca. It's sort of. I think it was Brian Windhorst making this point. He's like, it's reminding me a lot of LeBron's first stint with the Cavs, where they did so much. They were so desperate to keep him. They just kept trading stuff, and it's like they kept
You have
botching
nothing
all
left
these
to
moves.
trade.
Then he's left with nothing. He's like, look, I got to bounce. There's nothing around me. If this doesn't work out, like they traded a pick, they traded probably their second most valuable player. They traded stuff for Porzingis. They traded stuff for who else? They let Brunson go. It's like eventually the clock's ticking here with Luca, and if this doesn't work out, you got to wonder the next couple of years here, how Luca feels about the organization.
Yeah, we'll like close this loop too because we've been talking for a little while. But
Yeah,
the
we
closing
have.
thought too is with the Mavs. Is I don't like. I mean their title chances. I mean their title odds got like overcut in half with this move, and I don't really see it
Yeah, me
happening.
neither.
But I'm at the point where as much as I believe Luka's one of the most talented players in the league, and it's easy to say. It's a lot like James Harden back at the Rockets, where he would drop a lot of ISO ball out 40-point games, and I've always kind of said it in a way where, as good as Luka's been the last few years, a lot of people are saying, "Oh, he needs help," and then it's the same people that said, "Well, what about they had Porzingis and Brunson, they have talent around him, and it hasn't really worked." And they got Christian Wood, now they get Kyrie. It's one of those things where eventually, when does it become we need to add X, we need to add X, and become a matter of maybe we're not going to win with only ISO ball playing, with a less than stellar bench unit that's getting a lot of less usage. So I think this move is kind of going to be big for how I assess Luka Doncic going forward, in my opinion.
And I think these teams in the West sense, hey, there's nobody great. The Warriors are limping. They're hurt now. That's usually the best team. They might be a playing team. They might not even make the play-in if Curry has a setback here at some point. So these teams, I don't know. Somebody's got to win the West. I think you got to favor whoever comes out of the East. But, the West is sort of wide open. There's an immaturity to them. They've been struggling. I don't know you don't really have a great team in the West. So not that I think Dallas is going to come out. I just don't think they defend well enough. I will be interested to see from a betting standpoint what their totals open at once they have Luca and Kyrie, because they will definitely be able to score and they won't be able to stop anybody. So I think the overs their first couple of games before the books adjust might be good plays. But like you said, we probably spent a little too much time on this, but I think it was a good conversation. First in gold. I'm sorry, the bank is open. Pick it sports, boom fantasy.
Forget
Yeah,
what day it is.
$20 fine. Well, the Clippers aren't
It's
playing.
the
How am I supposed to
Clippers'
know what
fault.
day it
Just blame
is?
the Clippers.
I know. It's a weird
Sunday,
day.
Monday, Clippers, Wednesday. It's hard. It's hard to keep track.
Yeah.
Pelicans laying a point to the Hawks. Pelicans haven't played great lately either. They did bury the Kings Sunday. Had a nice win over the Lakers on Saturday. Pelicans laying a point. Total 236.5. Nick, what you got?
Yeah, I do have a play for this game, except now the guy that had no injury stuff is a game time decision. I took Ingram's points when it opened at 23.5 and then up to 35, which was plus 700. Hawks struggle against small forward position. And then I watched a lot of that Laker game, and I know he's not KD, but his movement and shot selection and just bucket getting reminds me so much of KD. just his length and his ability to just score at will. So if he ends up playing tonight, I really like that play. It's so tough with some of these guys, and like we've all beat a dead horse, but the injury stuff is just makes it so tough because if you wait until game time, the line's gonna move. If you don't get it early, but you don't know, then you get the injury stuff. So if he plays, he plays. I like it. If not, it voids and get your money back. So I like Ingram tonight.
Before Brian
Oh,
goes, if he doesn't play, who should we look to bet if he doesn't play? Who gets a bump in their stats?
I mean, it seems like every time he doesn't play, McCollum goes crazy
Okay.
as far as points.
yeah, that's the only thing you can really hope for not is you don't want to have one of those situations where you come out and it says Ingram playing on a minutes restriction or something like that,
Right.
where you get screwed over. Yeah, but this game is interesting because I mean Najee Marshall's another guy that benefits if Ingram doesn't play because he gets a
Right.
little bit more rotation minutes. But yeah, this is one of those games where you can almost maybe take Marshall stock because not as just Ingram that's game time decision. It's also Valanciunas is also a game time decision.
His
And
rebounds might
so
be a good look too, Marshall.
yeah, so it's one of those things. If you wanted to take Marshall and hope that they are ruled out, or one of them is, that's one pivot you can have. But also, Dejounte Murray is also listed game time decision. So there's for it being basically a pick 'em at -1 on a DraftKings I'm seeing right now. It is interesting to think that there is so much injury news that factored into it. I almost didn't really give it too much of a look because, as you mentioned earlier in the morning, it looked like a juicy game to find some over and some value. But as the day went on, it was a migraine for Murray and some other injury news that resulted in more game time decisions.
Yeah, and it's amazing. It's not that long ago the Pelicans were in first and they were the feel good story. Now they're fighting to just get back into playing. And all
Yeah.
these teams, I can't remember in any sport, a conference that was so bunched up for so many teams. Usually it's like, all right, maybe 5 through 8 are tied, or whatever. You got really three or four through like 12, 13, all separated by a game or so in the loss column. It's pretty
Yeah.
wild.
Right now, if you have a bad week in the West, you can go from
Yeah.
3 to 8 just like that. It's very interesting to think about, which kind of help honestly because you mentioned earlier about maybe buying stock into the Suns now that Devin Booker's back. Honestly, that could be one of your better angles is the fact that the teams that you know are good in the regular season, maybe they get on a run, and it's so tight that just because they're in X place in conference doesn't really mean they're going to finish there with how tight it is.
Yeah, I don't love the upside of the Suns just in general, but they're steady, and if they're healthy, I can't count them out. I know they're sort of not a popular team the way they flamed out against Dallas, but it's still a team. I know there was injuries, but they made it to a finals. They were up 2 games to nothing, as we know, and then they won 64 games last year. It was ugly against Dallas, but let's see what their number is on DraftKings to win the whole thing. They're not going to give you 18 to 1, so I don't know. Is 18 to 1
Yeah.
worth a sprinkle? Probably. I'd probably like a little
Nah.
more, right?
Probably not. I would say
Need more.
look into like if you can find like a market to like win the West or to like win a division, like you said, with what +250. So
Right.
it's one of those things where it might be worth a sprinkle if you believe that they can stay steady, and a team like the Kings or some other teams will maybe start having issues later in the season when things get a little bit more, tired legs and attrition setting in.
And FanDuel does update these season win totals. I think DraftKings does as well. Suns are at 45.5, so it's about where I'd expect them. I don't know that I love that, so I think they're kind of like a semi-sleeper, but I think the book sort of agrees, so you're not getting great value there. So anything else on this
Yeah.
game before we move on?
No.
Mm.
Let's see. What do we have next? Bulls, Grizzlies. Man, the Grizzlies, it's been ugly lately, on the court, off the court. They're making a lot of enemies between Dylan Brooks. They talk a
Hey,
lot.
can
Jaws,
we acknowledge
yes.
our last show of how we told everyone to bet the Dylan Brooks ejection fight at was like what plus 35,000 I think it was.
I think it's going to be minus 35,000 going on because man, he is getting a reputation as not a liked player. I don't know what to make of them. They're laying 9.5. Their total 234. I guess the word that comes to mind is immaturity. There's an immaturity with them where they're talking a lot. They haven't won a lot. They're making a lot of enemies. Brian, start us off here. Grizzlies and Bulls. Anything you have in pocket for this one?
So I actually do have a play in this game, and I think it's very dependent. I was actually had it circled for a bigger play, and I pulled it back because DeMar DeRozan is questionable. So the fact he got downgraded today, he might not play, which I think it helps my prop if he doesn't play in terms of matchup. But then it also makes you think, holy hell, if DeMar doesn't play, could the Grizzlies go on a run and win by 48 points? So it's a double-edged sword there. But I do like John Morant a lot in this game because I think a lot of people are scared of taking John Morant props in this type of matchup because as bad as the Bulls are defensively, they do have this reputation of having Ayo DeSumo and Alex Caruso as these stellar defensive players that take away number one options. But I mean, Caruso's been injured. He hasn't been the same defender he has been in the past. And the one thing that Ayo and Caruso struggle with is guys beating them to the rim. And if you have Vucevic on a switch to John Morant, good luck. That's all I'll say. It's one of those guys where he's so good to get to the cup. I actually took his over 27.5 points for half a unit, and then I took his over over 43.5 points / rebound / assist. The points / rebounds assist, the PRA was plus 100 on Caesars. And without Steven Adams, he's actually over this PRA line in 8 of his last 9 games. And he just sees such a big, his usage rate is almost 35%. So to ask for, say, a 29-8 game just feels right in this matchup that it's going to be quick. And it's also a team where he's so smart to take good matchups and just push pace. And last night I watched the Spurs push pace against this Bulls team, and they put up 22 points in transition. So it's just one of those matchups where I think he's going to rack up a lot of stats, especially if you believe in the fact that John Morant hears outside noise of all of this media hate and whatever the hell is going on with the Pacers game, whatever that is. And then you have Shannon Sharp chirping at him some more. And they made a video today about how he was soft or whatever that went famous and viral, and then everyone tagged him in it. So I don't usually factor that in, but I do think John Morant's a vengeful guy, and I think he has a perfect matchup to show people that he's a great player, and which I still think he is, despite the media hate and the overall hate.
Yeah, I got one play in this as well. I got another Grizzlies player. I took Bane's points. I got it at 19.5 and took it up to 30. 30 was plus 700. He's hit the 20 in 8 of his last 10. The Bulls allow the 5th most points to shooting guards. He's been playing a lot better lately. And it's funny you should say about the Grizzlies being a young team, Will. I was hearing trade stuff that if they add someone, it needs to be a veteran. They said they need somebody in there who can kind of right the ship.
Danny Green?
Yeah. Well, yeah, they actually brought him up, and they're like, they keep bringing up Danny Green's name like that's gonna do something when Danny Green available to play tonight or out another 2 games. It's like, dude's 35 with busted knees.
Yeah.
But they said they need somebody in that locker room to kind of reel everybody in.
And that's a tricky spot because, like you mentioned, you do need a veteran, but it needs to be somebody good, like young kids that are good. Ja's not going to listen to the 12th man on the bench. Like, it needs to be somebody with some status, which is tricky, especially if you're just bringing them from another team to come in and just sort of be like a player coach. That's tricky. I don't know. I'm not sure.
There's a mega talented player coach in Miami that they could trade for.
Oh, Haslam.
Yeah, I was waiting for some of this. Yeah, Haslam. Yeah. You could always get him. You could always bring him in. He can give you solid 3 minutes every month.
Right. Yeah, I don't know what Memphis. They got a lot of depth. They got a lot of numbers. I don't know what move they make.
They're 1-8, right, in the last 9 games, I believe.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things I could tell you is that I kind of mentioned earlier about how you can have starters and it's great, but it doesn't necessarily win you basketball games.
Rosen ruled out.
All right, that's fine. I mean, it helps the matchup. I just need someone
DeJounte Murray playing.
Yeah, I just need someone on the Bulls to put up points to make sure it's not a blowout. I actually like the matchup a lot more without defensively, but I was going to say that to kind of cap it off is that you can have these stars. I mean, you have bigger names like Jaren Jackson's a bigger name now, John Morant, Bane, Brooks for the wrong reason, but I mean they're playing terrible basketball without Steven Adams. So it's one of those things where people aren't necessarily talking about Steven Adams being the lifeblood of the Grizzlies often, but you look at their record without him, it's one of those things where, you can have all these great players, but you need someone outside of Steven Adams to, step up and actually give you something else besides, flashy dunks or punch you guys in the balls. You need something else.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Anything else on that one before we move on? Nuggets laying 9.5 against the T-Wolves. These teams played Sunday night. Nuggets played nobody. Timberwolves beat them by about 1,000,000 points. That's why it's so hard when you go through the NBA schedule. Like, all right, did these teams play earlier in the year? Sometimes these results can be completely misleading because you forget who played in what game. And this was a situation where the Nuggets didn't play anybody. So 9.5 is a big number. Total 233. I would lean towards taking the points here. Nick, what do you got here? Nuggets and T-Wolves.
Yeah, this is another one where I had an early play with Jamal Murray. I figured they sat him Sunday, and now once again he's questionable or game time decision. So I took his points. 25 was minus 105 up to 35 plus 700. He's been playing really well lately. 25 plus in 5 of his last 6. Timberwolves allow 26 plus to point guards. So if he does play, it's just similar to the Ingram thing. If he plays, I like it. If not, hopefully it's not a play and sit type thing. But yeah, with his question of him being so questionable, I might be with you in taking the points here because if he sits, I think that number moves.
Brian, anything?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, that is interesting. It's also, even if he does sit, you have to trust the fact that the Timberwolves play competent basketball, which has been hit or miss. I mean, they've been on a decent streak here and there, but other than that, I mean, they've gotten blown out by some bad teams recently as well. So, yeah, I mean, I guess as it was 9 on most books. I'm seeing 8.5, 9 for the spread.
See,
So,
9.5 on DraftKings.
oh, really? So
Yeah.
I'm shopping lines right now. Okay, so 9.5 is a little different. That's kind of a good pivot number for a lot of these underdogs. Is that under 10? So I don't hate that, especially if you think that maybe they're extra cautious with a guy like Murray.
Yeah. Um, Nothing really to add. I guess we can move towards the final game and what's going to be the spotlight here, the talking point. I'm actually getting a little sick of hearing about it, but I'm curious what you guys think in terms of the LeBron going to break the record. How do you handicap that into tonight's game? Do you think he wants to do it tonight? You think he wants to save it and do it in Milwaukee in front of Kareem against Giannis, as opposed to, this game's 10 o'clock Eastern on TNT against the Thunder? I don't know what to make of it. Nick, what do you make here of LeBron trying to break the record here in the next couple days?
It's going to be against Milwaukee. I mean, he's one of those guys who has stuff mapped out and knows what he wants to do, and the movie script has it for him against Milwaukee, with the Kareem aspect going against Giannis. He'll probably even do it with like a sky hook or something like that, just to add that on top of it. But yeah, I mean, he'll probably get his, I don't know, 25 to 30 tonight, probably something like that. The only thing that I would be interested to see, maybe like live bet it. If he comes out and hits like 2 or 3 threes in the first quarter, he might go for it.
I
Like
am
some
I don't
crazy amount.
I don't mean to cut you off there, but I do think that's an interesting angle you mentioned live betting where if he does that hot and you can get like under say 40.5, I almost think it's worth looking at the under too. If you talk about how
Right.
he's so planned out and he's so narrative based. I mean, what was it, a few days ago? He had like 22 or 21 at three quarters in. And the fourth quarter, he racked up like 3 or 4 dimes in the fourth, and then like he just kind of went passive. Not saying like he's gonna do that if they are in a time frame where they have to win. Like if it's close, that's one thing. They need every win they can get. But
Yeah.
it's always one of those things. You mentioned how planned out he is. He hasn't been
Right.
scoring in the last 3 games, and
Yeah.
I'm actually the one play I have in this game is I took LeBron James under 33.5 points, and
Yeah.
it's one of those ones where I
Yeah, bad
grabbed
play.
it. I really like it, and it's one of those things where if he comes out, breaks history, and I lose, I know you'll get the clowning from like the Twitter trolls and this and that. But at the end of the day, if a guy breaks the all-time scoring record to break my points under, you just tip your cap and move on. But he is only over 33.5 in 3 of the 24 games this year with Anthony Davis. So if you look at this record aside, like if you could put a blindfold on me and I knew nothing about this record, I would take under 33.5 for him. And with a healthy Anthony Davis, 10 out of 10 times in almost any matchup, especially in this one where the Thunder are quietly like they're top 10. They're actually number 11 now. They were top 10 a week ago, but in defensive efficiency, they do have guys like I think Josh Giddey mentioned it in his interview that they have good defenders and they can stop LeBron and they're going to do stuff to make sure he doesn't break it against them. So they actually do play decent defense. And one of the other things they do is they have a really good turnover ratio and they don't turn the ball over a lot. So a lot of these LeBron, highlight dunks on the journey to this record breaking should be limited tonight for a team that doesn't have many turnovers. And lastly, I mentioned Anthony Davis a little bit, but Anthony Davis is such a positive matchup in this game. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a LeBron 26, triple double, just feeding Anthony Davis inside and letting him cook, and then having his moment against Kareem.
Yeah, I don't want to. Like, I could see cases for him going forward. I could see cases for him pulling back. They do need every win they can get, like you said. I don't want to put my money here on playing amateur psychologist, but I just think the number is too high. 33. I mean, where is it? Where is it? 33 and a half.
I got it on a Camby book, so like all
Okay.
the Bet Rivers and all those. So it was actually
high.
33 and a half minus 115 is just too high. Like you said, if I were able to shut off my brain and turn off my lights and my brain for the last 2 weeks and not even know he was close to the record, I would take under 33 and a half with Davis playing every single time in almost any matchup. I don't think there's a matchup I wouldn't take it.
Absolutely.
He's averaging 26 and a half points per game with Davis in the lineup. So that's a
It's
7-point differential. Yeah, that's a big difference.
It's inflated for sure. So I could certainly see an under there. And I like OKC. I bet OKC. I gave OKC out. To me, look at these teams. I know Davis has been out, LeBron's been out, but like the Thunder have a better record. I mean, I know the records can be a little misleading, but I don't know that 6.5 points separates these teams. I don't know that the Lakers are 6.5 points better than anybody. They're just so inconsistent defensively, shooting. The Thunder are a good young team. They are on the rise. In a year or two, they are going to be a juggernaut with all their talent, with all their picks. So they're young, they're athletic. I know they're second night of a back-to-back, but I don't worry about that as much because, like I said, they're a younger team, so it probably doesn't affect them. They had a bad performance in Golden State. I wouldn't be surprised if OKC wins this game, so I do like OKC plus the points. Do you guys have any feel here for the side or the total?
I almost agree with you with the OKC solely because the Lakers are just one of the toughest teams to trust because
Right.
as good as they have talent-wise, I've seen them derail so quickly in certain games. So I do think I run with a team that, despite in a back-to-back, just has, like you said, the talent and the legs, like the fresh legs to just, stay in games. And that's 2 possessions at +6.
SGA might put up 40 tonight. I don't think the Lakers have anybody that can stop him.
Russell Westbrook revenge game?
Hey,
I did look at his assists. I'm not gonna lie, his assists were plus money for 7.
Dennis Schroeder revenge game?
Yeah, I mean, you have a lot of narrative that way. Honestly, if Russ wants to have a revenge game and that's the reason why I win my under for LeBron, I'll take it. If I want to see vintage Russ drop 40, that's all right. I'll take that every day. I don't know if this changes your guys' mind, but my friend just sent me this that LeBron James showed up to the game in like this all black silk suit with the chain on. Yeah, so maybe
4 hours. Why is he there? What's he doing? Is he sweeping the floor?
I don't know. I just got this from my friend. He just sent me
Wow.
it. He's all whatever. He's very dressed up for this occasion. So maybe that's people are reading into it a little too much, but I hope he does it.
I hope he does it against Milwaukee, and Milwaukee beats him by 30.
Yeah, that'd be fun. That'd be like a sky hook. They stop the whole game, and it's like this whole ceremony, and then ESPN has to post that, but the score is 148 to 96.
Yeah, that would be anticlimactic and awkward. At 106-82, LeBron gets fouled and he splits a pair of free throws. They stop the game at the foul line when he's down 27. That would be awkward.
Did you see that video of the high school or whatever? They were down 70, but the guy was doing 360 splits and cartwheels, celebrating down 40, and then 20 seconds left, he dunked it. And then the thing, they were down 76, and he dunked it. He cleared the court. He told everyone to clear the court. He dunks it, and then he starts doing all his cartwheels. And it was an away game, and the other team was cheering for them, despite the fact that they're kind of being a little Memphis Grizzlies there. But that's gonna be a State Center on Thursday.
Interesting. So I do like the Thunder. Anything else before we get out of here? I noticed Westbrook and Brogdon switched. I think we kind of hinted at that last week that Westbrook should not be the favorite. I actually think Powell, there's value at 6-1 just because his counting stats are really good. He's on a winning team. So if I had a bet to make 6 man of the year, I think Powell 6-1 at DraftKings is a decent number. You guys have any thoughts? Award, 6 man of the year, anything before we bounce?
I got one last question for you. Is there one more big trade? And if so, who is it? Who do you think?
You'd have to define big. I mean,
an all-star getting traded.
Are we talking Kevin Durant or like
No,
big
I
time
mean, it doesn't have
like
to be
first?
Durant. I mean, it could
Shocked
be
if
like
I would need like 200 to
Aiton
1
type
to bet
trade.
Durant getting traded. I don't think he get traded. I'd be shocked. Um, see, like Anunoby doesn't count. Like I could see Anunoby, but if he doesn't, he's on an All Star, so I
No,
don't
yeah,
count him.
that's a big trade. I'd say that's a big trade. I mean, he'd probably get
Yeah.
like 3 first round picks.
I think an Anunoby level. I think that'll be the best. Nothing crazy though. I
Okay.
think like Siakam might consider big, but I don't think he ultimately gets traded. So I will say no. I think it's kind of a quiet deadline. I think Irving
Okay.
was the biggest trade. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I would have to agree there. I think the only guys I could see being moved, as you kind of mentioned, is OG, and then after that kind of drops off. There's not like I don't see Durant being moved. Chris Paul's still on the table, but the Suns are in such a weird position where they might just eat and ride. Like they might just see how they look with Booker again and run it back for the third straight time. So I just don't see a move, really happening.
You guys think the Lakers will probably do something right, but I don't know that they're just going to give up those picks. I saw the Utah package today of like Beasley and Conley for the picks. I can't see the Lakers doing that, but I'm sure they'll do something. Any prediction what the Lakers do?
I have no clue now. I thought Kyrie was going there for sure.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, that was honestly as a guy that bets religiously on DeAndre Ayton, I was hoping Ayton would go to the Mavericks, and then I saw Kyrie go there, so I was like, all right, hopefully that doesn't happen because that would be a terrible, terrible betting standpoint for me. So, yeah, I don't. I thought Kyrie was going to go to the Lakers. After that, I wonder if the Lakers even had anybody else circled on their next up. I think they were kind of just planning to go out, pull out the stops to get Kyrie. You saw LeBron's tweet or whatever. Maybe it's me. So I feel like they didn't really have a backup plan. I think they were like, oh, we're gonna get we're gonna get Kyrie Irving, and then see what happens. And now that that didn't happen, I don't know if the Lakers really had a backup plan.
But Kyrie was kind of out of nowhere. Like this time last week, we weren't talking about Kyrie being traded, so they probably had ideas, thoughts, discussions before Kyrie. And look, he would have made them a legitimate title contender, but I can't really criticize them. Like if you saw what they're asking for, 2 first-round picks, both unprotected, Christie, Reeves, just go down the line, Westbrook. It's like, man, you can't really count on Kyrie because it's like with Dallas. Once the Lakers trade all that stuff, they're out of stuff to trade for like the next decade. So is that really where you want to, put all your chips in the Kyrie camp? I don't know. So it was definitely a tough call. And it sounds like the Nets wanted to stick it to Kyrie and not trade him where he wanted to go to.
Right. If I had to throw one out for the Lakers, just random, I would maybe say Levine to the Lakers if I had to throw one out there.
Yeah, that'll
I don't know if
Yeah.
they trade him, but
Yeah, if the Bulls are like the definition of like if you're doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results with insanity. That's kind of like them with this big three they have, where they are convinced it's gonna work, and they're like always like 46% win percentage, and they're like, it'll click. Like 7 years from now, they're gonna be like, it'll eventually work out. They haven't really talked at all about trading any of those 3 pieces they have, but it's not really working out the last few years with them.
Yeah, and there's some Terry Rozier rumblings for the Lakers, so I could see some sort of side deals. But again, you only have very few assets, so you're just going to give 1 or 2 of them away. I mean, if it's future seconds, they'll give those up in a heartbeat. But I think they're going to try to click towards or cling towards those picks as much as possible, unless it's a real difference maker. Which we go back to, there's really not a difference maker out there.
You gotta save him for Bronny. You gotta save your pick
Yeah.
for Bronny in a few years.
I mean, that's still 4 years down the road, something like that.
It's something in the near future.
Yeah. All right. Anything else before we bounce?
I don't think so. I don't know. I'm intrigued to watch some of these games, but in terms of props, there was just like there's way too much weird injury news and guys coming back from injury for only being a 5-game slate.
agreed.
All right. Well, thanks to Boom Fantasy Pickett Sports. Check them out. Brian, Nick, appreciate you guys. We'll be back Thursday. We'll have deadline to talk about. Well, I'm sure we'll have some Super Bowl. So a lot to discuss. Until then, thanks to Go Boys. Good luck with all your plays. We'll see you next time.